When you picture an ancient temple, you probably think of a huge, magnificent house built for a god, right? But what if that's not really what it was about? We're going to dive into the fascinating symbolism behind one of history's most famous temples and uncover a pretty surprising truth about what it all meant. So, yeah, this is the big question. What if the whole idea of a house for God was never meant to be taken literally? This one idea, if it's true, completely flips our usual assumptions about sacred spaces and forces us to look way, way deeper. All right, so picture this. The scene is a massive, incredible ceremony. The Ark of the Covenant, the most sacred object there is, representing God's actual presence, is finally being placed inside the brand new temple. This is the moment everyone's been waiting for. But then, right at the peak of the celebration, the guy who built the thing, King Solomon, says something that seems to blow the whole project out of the water. I mean, think about that for a second. Solomon basically stands up and says, God, you are infinite. You're bigger than the entire universe. So how could this little building I made possibly hold you? Now, this isn't just him being humble. It's a huge theological statement. So if the temple isn't meant to literally house God, what in the world is it for? Okay, so our first real clue for solving this puzzle is actually a pretty strange feature of the temple's design. The most sacred room, the most holy place where the ark was kept in complete and total darkness. No windows, no lamps. Why? Why would the space that's supposed to represent God be pitch black? Now, for us, darkness usually has a negative vibe, right? We think of evil or maybe just nothing. But in the ancient Hebrew mindset, it was a lot more complex. Sure, God could be symbolized as light. That represented all the splendor and life of creation. But darkness? Darkness represented something else entirely. It symbolized the fact that God is transcendent, that he exists totally outside of the time and space that he created. He's fundamentally other, almost in a different dimension. So here's the bottom line. The darkness wasn't a bad thing. It was a physical, constant reminder that the creator can't be contained by his own creation. Think about it. In a totally dark room, you lose all sense of scale, of distance, of time. It's the perfect metaphor for a God who is beyond all of that. And this, right here, brings us to the big aha moment. The key that unlocks this whole mystery is hiding in a single word that we've totally misunderstood. It's a word that shows up again and again in these ancient texts, the word dwell. See, when you and I hear the word dwell, we think of a home, a place to live. But for an ancient king, the word had this whole other layer of meaning. It was about sovereignty, about authority. To dwell in a land meant you ruled that land. And that simple shift in meaning changes absolutely everything about how we read the phrase, God dwells in the temple. Let me give you a really clear example of how this worked. So, an ancient king in, say, Mesopotamia couldn't physically be in all parts of his empire at once. So to show that he was in charge of a distant city he just conquered, what would he do? He'd build a statue of himself, right in the middle of it. And that statue's presence meant that the king dwelled there. Not that he lived there, but that his authority, his rule, was there. The statue was a symbol of his reign. And that was the real function of the temple. It wasn't God's cozy little home on earth. It was his statue. The whole building was this massive, symbolic declaration to the entire world that the God of Israel was the true king, the ultimate ruler over all of heaven and earth. The temple was the command center of his symbolic rule.
Okay, so if the temple is a giant symbol, what does that mean for all the rituals and ceremonies that went on there? Were they just people going through the motions? Well, no, not at all. The power of the rituals came from understanding the symbol they were pointing to.
I mean, just think about the rituals in our own lives, right? Any action can be totally meaningless by itself, but when it's part of a ceremony that we understand, it suddenly becomes incredibly powerful. And there's this fantastic story that makes this point perfectly. The scholar whose work this is based on, Dr. Konkel, tells the story about his own wedding day. He accidentally forgot the rings. Can you imagine? The whole ceremony just stopped for half an hour while somebody had to go get them. Now, of course, you can get married without a ring, but that ritual, that action of placing the ring, is so packed with meaning that it felt impossible to go on without it. A ring is just a piece of metal, but in that moment, it becomes the physical symbol of a lifelong promise. The temple rituals were exactly the same. They were actions that, when you understood the meaning behind them, were a way of acknowledging God's rule. So, what's the ultimate point of all this? What did the author of the Book of Chronicles, the person who recorded this whole story, want his readers to walk away with? It wasn't just about getting the history right. It was about completely changing their attitude towards God. This verse comes right after that whole temple dedication, and it basically summarizes the entire point. It's God's response to this newly built statue. God is saying, okay, if you really get what this temple represents, that it's about my rule, not yours, then here's the path forward.
So you see, the temple was meant to inspire humility. To stand in front of it was to admit that a human king, a human government, isn't the ultimate power. The right way to respond to the true king was to humble yourself, to talk to him through prayer, and to actively try to have a relationship with him. The author is making it crystal clear that this attitude, not just showing up for rituals, is what leads to real healing and restoration.
And that leaves us with a really powerful question for today. In a world that's constantly telling us to be self-sufficient, to be our own boss, to build our own little kingdoms, what does it mean to learn from an ancient symbol that was designed to teach the exact opposite? A symbol that declared the real power was somewhere else entirely, and that the best response wasn't pride, but humility. It's definitely something to think about.